Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
Okay, wait, tell me your name. I don't know your name.
Damba,
Say that again. Sorry.
Damba.
It's so nice to meet you. I'm
You too.
Alexis.
How are
Hi.
you?
I'm doing good. Thank you. I'm sitting in my hammock on my porch, which was not where I was planning on doing this, but
It's okay. Okay.
here we are.
Okay, let's start.
Amazing. So, can you hear me well, or should I put in these little earbuds?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
So, do you remember your first day on the set?
Oh my goodness, I totally do. Okay, so it's both a happy and sad memory for me. Sad because my grandmother passed away the day before.
Uh,
And I remember it was really important to me to like not bring that into work. And so I didn't tell anybody. Eric Winter knew because I had been with him the day prior at a photo shoot to introduce our characters, and that's when I received word. Um, so yeah, for me it was a surreal day, because there was a lot of emotion behind my my grandmother passing, and yet it felt like I knew she was there with me, and she was so happy for me to be starting this new show. So there was so much excitement. And I guess like the biggest memory that I have of that day is just feeling we were covered in baby oil. So I was like slippery and sticky all day long because they were trying to really get like this like glistening effect. So we had baby oil, and at one point they felt like it wasn't shiny enough. So then they put, I remember there was like hair gel on us. Anything that could make us look shiny, we had on our bodies. And then the tinfoil outfits.
what are some of your favorite memories from your time on the show?
Oh gosh, every day was so great. I loved my experience on Days of Our Lives so much. Um, working with the cast and the crew, they became my family, not just close friends, but family that's real. And, I'm sure a lot of people say that. Um, all the relationships that I formed, I feel like I really grew up on that show. I went from being, a young actress, working professionally for the first time at Young and the Restless. And then when I transitioned over to Days, I felt like I was folded in a different way. And it was fun. It was playful. I learned so much. My experience there was so profound because it helped me to not only be a better actress, but just a better person in general. I learned how to be a better friend. Um, my work ethic was transformed because of getting to watch some of the veteran people on the show and how they show up every day. So, yeah, it was a pivotal point in my life.
What was it like working with Eric Winter?
I love Eric. Um, he was he was my best friend, and we each went through a lot of things while we were playing brother and sister on that show. So he became my sounding board for a lot of personal things that came up, and I think that I was his too. He was funny. We used to rap together, like in our dressing rooms and down the hallways. I wish that there were video of that. I would love to see our baby cells just kind of like skipping up and down the hallways, just so fun. And he is a consummate professional. He's always prepared. He always wants to do better. He always wants to grow. And he's an incredible human, a really good friend. He's just a great guy.
That's
I still
nice.
talk to Eric.
Uh, what advice would you give to your younger self when you were just starting out in Hollywood?
Oh, I think if I were to give myself advice at that age, especially, it would be to, honor the slow, not feel like you have to get caught up in doing everything or saying yes to everything. I, I, yeah, I would encourage her to take more care of herself, spend more time in nature, and maybe a little fashion advice. My kids, I have two children, and when I was on the show, it was really like at the beginning of Google, right? I didn't really at that time understand that everything would be Googleable in the future. So different events that I went to or photo shoots that I did and outfits that I wore, I didn't realize that those would live on forever. Now know that.
What was your reaction when you heard Cassie will be murdered by the Salem stalker?
Oh, wow. Um, I was bummed out. I think all of us were a little nervous when the storyline came to be. And there were a lot of, whispers on set of like, who do you think would be next? Because we didn't know. And when I found out, I was sad. I really loved my character. Um, and yet at the same time, I thought it would be fun to play. And it was. Those last few episodes that we shot were um yeah, like the mystery around it all was really fun. The pinata fall was interesting.
What was your reaction at the twist of Roman and Kate being Rex and Cassie's biological parents?
Oh, it was fun. I love them. I learned so much from Teo and Deidre, and I felt this heart connection with each of them where I would be on set with them in a scene, and it was so easy to be in character because they just drew out the best of me. And so for that reason, at first I was a little resistant to the idea of Kate and Roman being my parents because it was just unknown, um, like working with new people. But I knew that I loved them, and as soon as we started working together, there was a different connection, but also just as dynamic. I was happy just to be working, So anything they threw at me, I was like, yes, let's do it.
What was your reaction when Cassie almost slept with her own brother Lucas?
Oh my gosh. I mean, Brian Datillo was hot, so I was okay with it, to be honest. Just being real.
If you had the chance to choose a love interest for Cassie, who would you have chosen?
Oh gosh. My love interest for Cassie would have been Maurice Bernard, Sonny Corinthos on General Hospital. I had a very well-known crush on him, like a respectful crush. He's married and happily married, but I thought he was just like the coolest, most handsome actor in daytime at that time. If Cassie were to have a romantic interest on days at that time period, um, somebody that she wasn't related to. Gosh, I don't know. They were also sweet and handsome. I think that I don't know. Who would you have picked?
Hmm, I don't know.
They were all great. I think that, I'd have to like really sit with that for a minute. because now I feel like they're all my friends. So it's kind of weird to be like, oh yeah, I wish that Cassie would have hooked up with, so and so who's my buddy. So I'll say Maurice. Yes, Maurice Bernard on General Hospital. We could do a crossover.
What life lesson took you to the longest to learn?
I mean, I feel like I'm still learning some life lessons. Um, I think it would be listening to my inner voice. I think that it's a great life lesson for all of us. I believe that we are put in these human bodies and we have intuition and we have like our own compass. And growing up, I would tend to push through the no's because I wanted them to be yeses. So for me, it's like, you know, listen within. I think that we have all the knowledge that we need.
What do you miss the most or least about working in front of the camera?
Okay, so for the most, that's easy. Getting my hair and makeup done. I hate doing it myself, so having somebody do that for me was phenomenal and always better than what I could do for myself. Um, and I'll go beyond that and say just that personal connection with my castmates, getting to be present and create. It's so playful and getting to um, just turn something that's on paper into something alive is magical. Um, what I don't miss, there was a lot. I think it's different now. I haven't been. Sorry, there's a truck moving by. I'm
It's okay.
sorry. It's trash day. Um, I think okay. So I was saying I know that it's changed a lot over the years, so I can't speak to what it's like on a set today in daytime. But when I was there, there was quite a bit of downtime. So it was, a lot of like time in your dressing room that I don't miss. I like being busy. I like doing things.
If the right opportunity came along, would you consider returning to acting or even revisiting your day's character?
I mean, absolutely. For a while, my answer would have been no because I was raising two little babies, and now that they're bigger, I think for me, um, I've always been creative. I've been an actress since I was younger, not always professionally. I started with theater when I was a child. So, yeah, if the right role came about and if, remember when I said, your inner voice, if my inner voice said yes, hell yeah. Yeah, yeah.
What was it like working with Teo?
Oh my goodness. I love that man so much. He is such a gift. Um, he brings such experience to the table. And more than that, you know, life experience, world travel. He's a Renaissance man. So he's so classy and mischievous. And that was something that I think he and I connected on. We would meet eyes, and there was always this like sense of I don't know. I can't really put a word to it. It's that like quality of recognizing the mystery in the other. There's such depth there with him when you look into his eyes. Um, and he's fun. He's a great sense of humor.
What was it like working with Drake Augustine?
Oh gosh. Oh, so Drake was, I mean, I think that this year, of course, people have spoken so much about him.
Yeah.
I've paid close attention, and everything that I've heard others say is so true. He was so warm and welcoming. He made everybody feel important. And if you walked into a room, he made a point of coming to you, saying hello, asking how you were doing, asking how your family was. And he was always there with a hug, with a joke, the story, oftentimes about baseball, which I was like, yeah, 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 baseball. Um, no, he was such a good guy. He was just the type of person where he's like what you, he was what you see was what you would get. with Drake in all the best ways. And he loved his family so much. He was such an example for me because at the time I didn't have a family of my own and I really wanted one. And in Hollywood, it's not always the place to look at for examples of like a healthy family life. And Drake just, his family was everything to him. And so I always used him as an inspiration for when I had my own kids.
Oh, that's so sweet. What was it like working with Deidre Hall?
Oh my goodness. Oh, she was phenomenal from the very first day. I remember being so nervous when I met her because she's iconic, you know? And she was so embracing of me. She made me feel so special and so seen. And she's exquisite. Everything about her. She exudes such grace and strength. Um, you know, she's, I remember one of the things, you know, I started when I was, I think, 20, 21 or 22 on days. And still quite young, right? I was still like really maybe not always I was a little wild. And Deidre, she just had this, she would see me tell like, okay, she's watching. I'm gonna reel it in. Or she was somebody who I looked to as another maternal figure um and still I don't see her often, but when I have seen her over the years, it feels the same. She's so warm and will always give me a big hug.
Or was it like working with the other teens like Kirsten, Jason, Kyle, Farah?
Those are my people. They were my closest friends in that period of time. Kirsten and I were roommates for a while,
Really?
and she was like a sister. Yeah, yeah. She lived with me. Was I still on days? Yeah, I think towards the end of the time that I was on Days of Our Lives, and then for a couple of years later, we had a place together in West Hollywood. And yeah, we had a great time. All of us had so much fun. I loved working with Farah. Farah is so funny. I don't know that people realize like her natural humor. I mean, this girl should be on a comedy. She's so funny. Her wit is it's like, you know, I can't even compare her to anybody else. She truly is so unique and so fun. Jason was always sweet and um I mean, all of them are such pros. Every single one of them I learned something from. And Kyle Brandt, were you said Kyle, did you
Yeah.
Kyle Lauder and Kyle Brandt? Yeah. You know, it was playful. I felt like they were it's our college age years, right? For most of us. And I felt like it was my like dorm experience with them. I remember a couple of times I would go out with Kirsten and then we'd go out at night and be out in LA, go to a club, go dancing, and then be like, we have to go home. We have to be on set at 6 a.m. And we would roll in and, we always knew our lines. We were ready. We were always ready to go. But um, I remember a couple of times one of the producers being like, okay, ladies, we know what you were doing last night. And probably better to be at home the night before you have to be on set. But we were, young and figuring it out. And I certainly could not do that today. Oh my gosh, if I'm up past 11, I'm like dead the next day.
You haven't told about Jason.
Oh, well, no, Jason, he's so sweet. He's such a kind-hearted human. He's wise beyond his years. He was not going out partying with us. He probably was asleep. Like he should have been. Like we should have been. He was cool. I haven't talked to Jason in a long time, but place in my heart for all of them. You're back.
Okay, Cassie had one of the most dramatic storylines from alien rumors to being presumed dead. What was it like to play such a mysterious and unpredictable character?
I loved Cassie so much. Of all the characters I've played, she was my favorite. There was such like availability for depth with her because what you saw wasn't the whole story. You know, she put on a facade. There was this armor that I think was important for her to protect what was inside. I believe that Cassie really had a sweet, kind heart and was just so affected by her unconventional upbringing. And so with that, she put on this edge, and it was the edge of spiciness. And that spiciness was so fun to play. I loved all the one-liners. I loved the, kind of sassiness that that character allowed for me to bring on set. And it was the best. I loved every day of playing Cassie, except for the last day.
If Cassie had a "Where are they now" moment, what do you think she'd be doing today?
I feel like Cassie would be exploring. I think that she's overseas somewhere, maybe living her best life, like in Paris. I hope she has at least 5 boyfriends
Five.
at the same time. Yeah,
Same time.
sure. To make up for lost time, she deserves it.
Did you have any mentors or people on set who really influenced you?
Oh, yeah. Christian Alfonso and Deidre were both mentors for me. And I think, similar maybe to Cassie, I came on set with a little bit of an edge. I felt like I was joining a show with such a long history, and it's tough it's for me, it was tough joining a show as a young girl at, 21 years old. And I had just left Young and the Restless, where for me, I had a much different experience. I loved the cast, I loved the crew. But when I was on Young and the Restless, I was working with my fiance at the time, and he had been on the show longer than I had. So I felt like I was coming into his arena, so to speak. And so when I started Days, I was like, this is my chance to be, you know, my own. And and I think with that, I did come over with a little bit of a shell, like a protective shell. And I was trying to figure everybody out. And Christian helped me to break through that. And she was just so um she was just so open to like bringing me into the fold, which I wasn't quite used to with the women of the show who'd been there for decades. She was and still is like, so fun, so youthful, and has this incredible and family life and sense of depth to her that I just looked up to her from day one, and I was like, I want to be exactly like you. And Deidre was so similar. Both of them were so welcoming to me, and I'm sure that they're the same way with young women as they start the show now. It's just who they are as humans. um, yeah, I would love to have an opportunity to do that and to help a younger actor come on board. And then, it's like it's just such a privilege to be able to be a part of a show like that with such rich history.
Did you ever run late for work?
No, I would have been fired. Um, like I said with the work ethic piece, even though I did go out sometimes late in those early years, um, I was always on time, usually early. And, one of the things that I loved about daytime television is that it really sets you up for success in any future project that you do because, the show does not revolve around you and you're part of a network that is, it's like this machine that's moving and you're a piece of it and you're an important piece, but still, you know, everybody has to be moving together to make the show work. And so there are no sick days. You cannot be late. These are things that are just like obvious to you when you start because if you are late or if you do miss, the show has to stop. And then, that's costs everybody time and money. Um, so yeah, I actually still use that in my own life. I'm not going to say that I'm always on time. It's different now, but yeah, I still don't believe in sick days unless you're like, like my son inside right now with a fever.
I wish I
Even
will.
still, when I was on days, I remember there were times where I would go to work totally sick and they would write it in like Cassie barely could talk or done.
How does it feel after 23 years when you started to play Cassie?
That was very crazy to me because I wasn't even 23 years old when I started. It's to think that moment in time was so long ago, and yet still it made such a big impact on my life. Um, it's funny. It feels like it was just yesterday in some ways, and like a million years ago in others.
Wow, not even a recast in 20 years. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
They even recasted Rex with Kyle Louder.
I heard about that. I know. Where's Cassie? Do they talk about her? I haven't seen the
No,
show in a while, so
they don't talk about
nothing.
it.
Gosh.
That's crazy. And finally, is there anything you'd like to say to fans who still remember and support your work?
Oh gosh. Thank you. I still am so moved each time. It's funny to me that still people will recognize me and bring it up. And it just gives me like I have the softest place in my heart from my time that I was on Days of Our Lives. And if my character made any impact on anybody who's watching this or who watched the show, I'm just so grateful. It was important and special to me too.
Yeah, that's sweet. And thank you for joining our interview, and I wish you a nice day.
Thank you. You too. This was a pleasure. It was so fun to do this. I haven't done an interview on Days of Our or 4 Days of Our Lives in many years. So thank you for asking.
Yeah, sure. You're welcome.
And I
Bye.
appreciate that you made it like a conversation. I wanted it wanted it to feel casual and like a conversation.
Of course.
So you did that.
I'll talk to you soon.
That sounds great for sure.
Bye.